With the release of 6 brand new heroes, Deadlock's roster now has 38 different heroes to choose from, some of which are easy to play, while others can be extremely difficult. So here's one tip for every hero in Deadlock to make your time carrying a little bit easier.
They don't know who they're dealing with.
Abrams has one of the biggest hitboxes in the game, but what if I told you in lane, he actually has one of the smallest? His shoulder peek is one of the best in the game, and with a shotgun, he can deal decent burst damage while being very hard to shoot back. Abuse this to whittle the enemy down and pressure them hard.
Mark my words, I will represent Ixie in the Olympics.
Apollo is easily the most mobile hero in the game, but there's things you might not be doing to abuse that. When using Flawless Advance, don't use each one back to back. Instead, use dashes between each lunge to make yourself even harder to hit, and space out your dashes a little to be less predictable as well as close the gap. Considering you'll most likely buy Stamina Master on Apollo alongside his disengaging sigil giving stamina return, you'll have plenty of stamina to use.
Who wants to play with old Bebop, eh?
Bebop's bombs are incredibly important to stack up as soon as possible, but simply running up on the enemy and trying to stick them might be difficult and might even get you killed. So instead, try placing the bomb on a minion and uppercutting it towards the enemy as it's about to explode. This will get you stacks early without risking your life, and it deals a pretty good amount of damage with the uppercut.
You know those people who think having a dog is the same as having a personality? That's Mirage in the gin.
Billy's a strong melee hero, but not just because of his AoE bashdown or blasted ability. He actually has the fastest light melee in the game, meaning his DPS when light meleeing is much faster than any other hero. If you can get the enemy to parry, abuse this by just smacking them a bunch. This works especially well if you have blasted activated.
It's about time someone had some claws around here.
Calico's Gloom Bombs end up being one of her biggest damage dealers every game. That is, if you can land them consistently. In order to do this, try to aim the bombs at the ground the enemy is walking towards or the cover they're sitting on. You can also just barrel stuff the enemy whenever you go in with your leaping slash to make it far easier. Don't be afraid to spam this in lane to get a lot of poke damage in either.
Even in a world where magic surrounds us, skeptics abound.
Celeste's shield deals AoE damage upon breaking, and with it being pretty easy to break early game, you can really abuse this to tower dive the enemy. Simply put it on yourself before diving, and if you need it to break quickly to silence and damage them, let the tower hit you. Otherwise, they need to shoot you and essentially deal damage to themselves.
I am at your service.
Doorman's ultimate might seem simple and easy to use, but a lot of people make mistakes with it without realizing. While early in the game, using it to initiate can be strong, but later in the game, sending their strongest player to the Baroness is often more important than trying to use it to get a pick on anyone. The reason for this is later in the game, people are running around as a team far more often. If you ult the biggest problem on the enemy team during a team fight, that means you're removing them from the fight for at least 3 or 4 seconds. Think of it as you removing their souls from the fight.
The fact of the matter is, I do this for free.
Drifter is a hero who wants to be hunting people down the entire game, and thankfully, his blood scent gives him the ability to do that. You can use blood scent as sort of a heartbeat sensor by paying attention to whenever you gain move speed. When you see move speed gain, somebody is alone within 80 meters. This only works once you have the first upgrade. You can use this to either look for the enemy or use it to be safe and back up.
Splendid.
Dynamo's Quantum Entanglement is the most underrated part of his kit, often getting ignored because of his kinetic pulse or his singularity. But did you know you can use Quantum Entanglement to bring your teammates out of Kelvin domes if you yourself are outside of it? You can also bring teammates through walls whether horizontally or vertically. This can be the difference between losing a fight or winning a fight.
The dead have been making a whole lot of demands lately.
Graves is one of the best heroes for controlling the map. She can use Heroic Aura to boost not only lane minions, but her skulls and her zombies. This is really good for split pushing and fighting as it essentially doubles the DPS on the skulls and makes the zombies run faster to explode on enemies. Consider adding this item to your build.
I'm coming for you, Haythorn.
Heroes with good mid-boss abilities are very important as the Rejuvenator wins games. Luckily for Great Talon, his Spirit Snare is incredibly powerful for securing the Rejuve since it curses enemies. Don't forget to place these while defeating the mid-boss and while the Rejuve is dropping, as there's not a whole lot the enemy can do to avoid your traps.
You know it's bad when they send a Sandman.
Haze is a gun hero who gets the majority of her damage from fixation. This makes it incredibly important to keep stacks up on a target as much as possible. Thankfully, you can stack fixation at any range. Your damage will fall off, of course, but once you get near the enemy, you won't waste time stacking fixation and instead will already be at a higher DPS. Also, the fixation spirit damage has no fall off, so you can abuse this to poke people from any distance.
When I find who I'm looking for, I'm not bringing him in. I'm putting him down.
Holliday's main damage ability is her powder keg, but it can be pretty tricky to land if you don't understand how to use it. To make it easier to land, you want to be jumping, using powder keg, then quickly light meleeing it in the direction of the target.
Let's go complete a ritual.
Infernus' ult can feel a bit underwhelming sometimes as it's super telegraphed and takes 3 whole seconds to explode, which gives the enemies a ton of time to dodge it. If you buy Warpstone though, You can surprise the enemy by using your dash alongside it. This will give them way less time to react and allow you to stun their entire team.
Looks like I'm missing that job interview.
Ivy is one of the best jungle farmers in the entire game due to her kudzu bomb. She can actually farm camps while not even being there. As long as the neutral camp isn't in the ground by default, you can simply throw a kudzu at it and walk away. This saves Ivy a ton of time and lets her be much more efficient on the map.
The anticipation. Oh, it's exciting, yes?
Kelvin's ice path might seem like a way for him to just simply move around the map, but it can actually be used as another McGinnis wall. It's especially useful in the mid-boss arena as you can use his wall to slow the enemy down from dropping into the pit from the ceiling. You can also use it to block doors and even eat abilities.
There's no turning back now.
Lady Geist's soul exchange can essentially one-shot an enemy, but it can be a little tricky to optimize it. When looking to swap with somebody, try to not do damage to them unless you really have to. Your ult swaps health with the target, so if you get them lower than you need to, you're actually missing out on health gained and damage dealt.
You see, not everyone can handle the weight of being the best fighter on God's green earth.
LASH is a hero that gets counterbought a lot, usually with counterspell. A lot of people will counterspell his ults, but something you can do to avoid getting your ult ignored is waiting the full duration of your death slam before grabbing them. Of course, this isn't guaranteeing your ult anyway, but it definitely makes a difference.
Ready to do some field testing.
McGinnis' turrets are extremely underrated and often used incorrectly. Try to avoid placing her turrets too close to one another, as heroes with a lot of AoE abilities will get a ton of value against you. Instead, try to place them to deny the enemy as much space as possible while still close enough to shoot together.
I hope I get to work with Lady Geist. She's an icon.
Mina's Sanguine Retreat is her most important ability and arguably one of the most frustrating abilities for the enemy team. Because it's a movement ability though, it gets countered easily by any slowing hex effect. Buying Dispel Magic is crucial on her and enables her to do whatever she wants. Stupid hero, by the way. Yoshi, do something, please.
You're under my protection now.
Jin's Mark allows Mirage to pressure enemies as you either have to hide until the stacks go away or you get blown up. They have a range limit though, which balances them, but it's actually only on the initial mark. Once you get that first mark, the range is actually unlimited. Abuse this by getting close enough to get one stack, then just falling back and popping shots at them to hopefully keep it stacking.
Maurice and I got your back.
Mo and Krill's Scorn provides them a ton of early game healing, so it's important to know that Scorn goes through everything vertically and horizontally. You can use this a lot in lane to hit people from under the bridge, next to walls, or even use it on jungle camps while you're walking past to get a quick heal.
This is gonna make for one hell of a story.
Paige is very good at ground control, with all of her abilities being things that only affect ground targets. At least, it might seem that way until you learn that her rallying charge can actually be thrown upwards. You can use this to cancel lash ults, stun that pesky Celeste, or just use it for some damage on someone in the air.
I gave up my name to join Paradox.
Landing Paradox's full combo is super important. The best way to do this after landing your kinetic carbine is to ult and then spam press your wall. This allows for your ult to be traveling to the enemy while carbined instead of wasting time putting your wall down first. In order for this to work though, you should turn on instant cast in the settings.
I'll use my family's name when I'm no longer ashamed of it.
Pocket's Barrage damage amp is unlike other damage amps such as Lady Geist Malice because it is actually a self-damage amp. This means it doesn't matter if you land 4 barrages on one person, you'll get extra damage on anything. This makes it even more important to just make sure you're landing your barrages on anyone since it adds so much damage to their entire kit and cannot be debuff removed by the enemy. Rem's nap time has a fairly long cooldown and is also very powerful. Luckily, he has his pillows which reduce the cooldown of his other abilities by 5 seconds. Because this game has no mana, try to abuse this as much as possible by using it on anything around you if you don't need it, of course.
I freed myself from the shackles of the past.
7's Lightning Ball slows down its travel speed when hitting a target. Try to use this to your advantage by throwing it along pathways your enemy might be using to escape versus just throwing it on the ground. His ball can output a ton of damage the better you get at it.
This shouldn't take long.
Shiv unlocks a movement minigame that allows him to get around the map quicker using his shotgun alt fire. You can slide quickly by looking to the side and alt firing, and you can even get a further wall bounce if you alt fire right before hitting jump on a wall bounce.
Look, I gotta kill time to avoid midtown traffic, so it's either summon an elder god or do my laundry, and I don't have it in me to fold shit.
Silver's boot kick allows for a quick combo that's hard for the enemy to read. When your 2 lands and you kick off, you can quickly chain together a shot and a light melee afterwards to do a chunk of damage.
You don't want Henry driving the body. He makes horrible decisions.
Obviously, I married you.
Sinclair's ultimate is one of the best ults in the entire game, but it requires a ton of knowledge to really understand how to use it. I highly recommend spawning one of each hero's bots as enemies in the sandbox and stealing their ult to see how it interacts with Sinclair. Something like a Haze ult is pretty bad on Sinclair since he doesn't have fixation, but something like a Dynamo ult allows you to single-handedly carry games.
Today, 9 commandments will have to do.
Venator's Consecrating Grenade can be tricky to land, but if the enemy is hiding under a Guardian or a Walker, you can actually just hit the tower with your grenades, and depending on how much ability range you have, you can get an easy hit on them. This is incredibly strong when pushing a tower. The same applies for minions.
Forget figuring out my purpose in life. I just want to know who my left arm belongs to.
Pain Battery is one of Viktor's most important spells to land because it does a ton of damage and at max level heals him for 18% of his missing health. Missing this is pretty bad, obviously. To miss Pain Batteries less often, try to aim it at a downwards angle instead of straight on, since the enemy won't be able to crouch under it.
I'm not a witch.
Vindicta might seem like she has no escape ability, but she actually has a really good escape in the form of flight. Unlike Grey Talon's flight, Vindicta can actually send herself flying by walking forward, pressing 2, and quickly cancelling it. I don't recommend using this to get around the map quicker, as it's a pretty long cooldown and it's a pretty important ability, so only use it for mobility when escaping.
This host will serve me well.
Viscous's Puddle Punch isn't just for doing damage. You can use it to launch yourself pretty far if done right. Set up the Puddle Punch on a wall next to you to punch you in the direction you want to go. Then, as it's about to punch, dash in the same direction. You can use this to escape, and it can't be slowing hexed.
Sometimes I think, man, it would be so fun to break out a Lost Whisper, and then I think, V, that is a dumbass idea.
This might seem like an obvious tip, but you'd be surprised how many people play Vyper and do not abuse her Slither ability. Vyper can slide up hills and can turn faster when sliding. You also get unlimited ammo when sliding in Deadlock. Practice sliding around the map because there's a lot of ways to be evasive when slithering around corners, and also a lot of ways to abuse the unlimited ammo.
The patrons must be stopped.
Warden's last stand indicator is currently incorrect and actually goes a little bit further on the ends of it. I'm not entirely sure why it's like that because I'm not a scientist, but if someone is barely out of reach of your ults, point your camera in a way that might hit them, or shake your camera like a maniac.
You think I handle money?
Wraith's cards may seem simple, but you can actually throw multiple in the air at once as long as you point your camera towards the sky. Doing this allows you to rain a barrage of cards down on an enemy in one huge burst instead of single tinier ones. Yamato is a very strong laner, and you can make her an even stronger laner by abusing the fact that you can go behind a wall, charge your power slash, and whenever you're ready, pressing your jump button to slide up the wall and surprise attack the enemy.